Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've all been waiting for updates on the takeover of Manchester United. We have been wondering what has been going on behind the scenes. We've now got clarity on what has been going on behind the scenes. Sheikh Jassim has submitted a further fifth offer to buy Manchester United, a significant increase on the fourth and what we thought was the final offer. I'm going to run through this breaking story. This has come, what, 15 minutes ago? I'm here live and direct. I'm sure the story will continue to develop as we are here live and talking about it. But I wasn't expecting to go live today. I just finished a video I was doing on player sales, but this is a far more important and prevalent conversation. We're going to run through the breaking story that came from Mike Keegan from the Daily Mail, which is now being reported by The Times, which is also being reported by Ben Jacobs and everywhere else. I'll run through what the size of the bid is, all the new details that have come out, and interestingly enough, and this is, I would say, is a very good thing, the fact that this bid comes with its own deadline from Sheikh Jassim, not from the Rain Group or the Glazers. Friday. Let's run through the full story here, and you can let me know what you think in the comments below. This is a major breaking story. Right, let's go full screen so you don't need to see my face. Sheikh Jassim submits a new bid for Manchester United and sets a deadline of this Friday for final negotiations in the hope of beating Jim Ratcliffe. Let's see what it says about the scale of the bid. The Qatar Sheikh who wants to buy Man United has submitted a further bid and has set a deadline of Friday. In a major power move to seize control, Jassim has submitted the offer directly to the club's owners, the Glazer family and the Rain Group. And the Rain Group, or is it straight to, it's either to the Glazers or it's to the Rain Group, one of the two. Mail Sport understands that the Sheikh has also told those involved that he will engage up until Friday. After then, the bid will stand, but there will be no further negotiations. What does that mean? So that means up until Friday, he's willing to talk through and discuss what that bid is and whether something else can change. Don't know. The bid is the fifth made by Sheikh Jassim since Mailsport revealed the details of it first in February. It remains for total control of the club. Let me see. Now, if we go over to Ben Jacobs, we can see a little bit here on the actual scale of this bid. Sheikh Jassim's 9-2 Foundation have submitted that fifth bid to buy Manchester United. It is an improved take it or leave it final offer. Now, we've been hearing about that before. We all thought that the fourth bid was the take it or leave it final offer, but it sounds like this one here. And this is something that I think a lot of people have mentioned this whole way through, right? Where, oh yeah, Qataris are going to blow everyone out the water, blah, blah, blah. We've not really seen any of that up until maybe this point here at the final hurdle. Jeez, why wait until the final hurdle? Anyway, let's see what Ben Jacobs is saying. The latest offer went in earlier this week is understood to be around about $6.5 billion with the billion of pledged investment on top. 9-2 Foundation sources reiterate that their offer is for 100% of the club, fully cash, transactionally simple. Any sale would clear United's debt, provide funding for players' infrastructure and other investment needs. The 9-2 Foundation sources point out that their offer is at an enormous premium on the current share price. So what does that work out as? 6.5 bill right now in exchange rate. How many zeros have I got to type in here? A lot of zeros. 1 second, then we can't try and figure this out. That's 650 mil. That's it. You can't even do it. That will work out to roughly 5.2 billion, there or thereabouts. Now, of course, we've all heard we didn't know whether the Glazers wanted $6 billion or £6 billion, but 5.2 billion would be a massive, massive premium. Chris, you're saying down there it works out roughly $30 a share. I don't know what the breakdown is, but it would be a significant premium on how much Manchester United's market capitalization is. And what that means, in boring terms, it's how many shares are there publicly available, including the Glazers, and how much is the share currently worth. Times those two together, you get the market capitalization of how much United is worth. And it's nowhere near 5.2 billion pounds. Let's go further into this and let's see what the Times are saying. As I said, this is a breaking and developing story, and we've all been waiting for big updates. This is, I suppose, the biggest of updates. This is an extra bid. I don't particularly think that Ineos are going to come back in over the top of this. So let's run through and see what the times are saying down here. The offer, which the Qataris want a response to by Friday, or they will pull out. So they're saying they're going to pull out altogether. The Daily Mail over here saying that that they will, that the bid will still stand, but there'll be no further negotiations. Two very different things. That's what I mean. It's breaking news. The Qataris bidding to buy Manchester United have submitted yet another improved offer in a last-ditch effort to secure control. Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos have emerged as clear favourites and have entered the final stages of negotiations with the Rain Group. That led to Sheikh Jassim, the chairman of one of Qatar's biggest banks, tabling a fourth offer of more than $5 billion after the 28th of April deadline for what was supposed to be the final bids. In a move that points to Sheikh Jassim sensing he may have lost to Ratcliffe, an improved offer has been sent directly to the Glazers and Rain with a request that they receive a response by Friday or they will withdraw from the process. While it remains to be seen if it proves successful, the latest development in a process that has been running since November is a measure of the growing sense of frustration among all the bidders as they wait for the Glazers to make their decision. So, man, what is your reaction and take to this, ladies and gents? I'll be interested to know this in the comments below. I'm going to try and interact as much as I possibly can. This is exactly what the Glazers wanted. Exactly what they wanted. This is why they've been holding out. This is why they've been delaying it. This is why they've been umming and ahhing, and why they've had their civil war in the internal civil war in the Glazer family. This is exactly what they wanted. For the Qataris to come in at the last gasp moment and slapping it on the table. It's exactly what they wanted. And probably what they had in mind the whole time. Conversations between them and the Rain Group. Yeah, you might get frustrated, you might get blah, 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 blah. Just play it all out. And we think that we can wait and squeeze some more out of the Qataris, which is exactly what they have done. Now, I'm going to go down here and going to try and read a few of your comments out around this. This is a breaking and developing story. There might be more that come. I'm going to keep an eye out. If anything does happen, you can let me know in the comments. I'm going to be trying to keep an eye out for anybody else saying anything. I've already covered the times. I think we're going to have an interview with Ben Jacobs. I think we're going to have to get that. What is it? Part 9. There's a super chat there. Let me read this one out. Tony, thank you very much, dude. You're saying Forbes value United at $6 billion. So I think that's helping with today's bid. I don't know where they're getting that valuation from. I mean, Man United is one of the 3 biggest clubs still in world football. Absolutely. That is a massive, as I said, premium on how much Manchester United's market capitalization is. But that's because the Glazers have been... This is a dream scenario for the Glazers. What, if I can ask you in the comments, what do you think will be the response from Ineos and Jim Ratcliffe? What do you genuinely think their response to this will be? Will it be accepting defeat? I don't know. You can let me know. But I'll read those out. Gungshi, I can see you there, man. How you doing, my man? Legend. People, there's going to be plenty of you who don't know what this is. This is the Gongshi, which I give it a little spank every time somebody gifts memberships because it's a proper community channel. And Gungshi's just gifted 5 memberships, maybe to some new faces here. And we see what you're saying. Maddie, you think that they're going to throw in the towel. Sam, you think that they're going to have the same bid and keep the same bid. Henk, you think it's going to be no response. They won't play the Glazers game. Hey, guys, they've both played the Glazers game this whole way through. Of course, because they wanted to buy Manchester United. They've been playing this game the whole way through. Cedric, you think that Ineos will come in and increase their bid? I think it's far, well, I don't know, just it strikes me as less likely that Ineos would do that compared to the Qatari bid. It always felt, and maybe this is Captain Hindsight speaking now that the news is breaking, but it always felt that they could just come over the top with a bigger bid at the end, final doors, boom, slammed it on the table. What can you do? Because let's be totally honest, completely honest about this, and it's written down there in the Times article. The Ineos group played the game as well. They played the game by creating a deal which would have allowed the Glazers to retain ownership. Well, not maybe not control of Manchester United, but ownership of their stake. They gave them a way to stay in the club. And that was a dirty move. So they've been part of this game this whole way through. Let me see what you're saying down here in the comments. I imagine the comments are going to be going crazy today. Yeah, so they should be. This is a significant development. Significant development. And you're saying, honestly, this is simply the Glazers continuing to push and push not only their evaluation, but their ability to remain at the club. The Sheikh Jassim bid obviously wouldn't involve that. It's 100% takeover. There is no conversation around any sort of minority stake for any Glazer under the Jassim bid. Ineos can't recover, says Siv Mikhail. Sensei guy, you're saying, is this what the Glazers were waiting for? And I personally think it was. We always asked. We said, look, what's the benefit now? Now that the season is finished, what is the benefit to the Glazers delaying? What could they be gaining by delaying this conversation anymore? And this is it. This is it. They've managed to wait long enough to squeeze a fifth bid out of Sheikh Jassim, which is far in excess of what his previous bid was there. You've got Ben Jacobs here saying that the latest bid that went in there, that final bid, which only exists until Friday, I think that's a good play. It's a good move from the Qataris. This isn't going to be a case of saying, oh, this bid will be there and this bid will exist up until August, until maybe you want to make your mind up. I think they've kind of got bored of waiting for the Glazers to do it and taking a bit more control and putting in their own deadlines. Just like reverse deadlines. Now, instead of the seller, which is what you would expect to set the deadlines, they've pissed off the buyers so much that the buyers are now setting the deadlines. P.S. You're saying important to monitor United shares in trading today. Well, I imagine it's going to be exactly what happened when the news of the first Qatari bid went in, when there was a massive artificial spike. And I imagine it's going to be the opposite of, remember when the Glazers and the stories came out that they might be staying on at the club and there was a big dip. Manchester United's share price right now is extremely volatile and is affected by news of the takeover. So I imagine it will be hit by this in a positive way. I imagine there'll be a bit of a spike. But 6.5. Now you can effectively ignore this. I'm not saying ignore the fact that they're pledging 1 billion. I'm saying, as far as the Glazers are concerned, that's not going to be any money that the Glazers get. So they don't care about that. It's that bid there. Now, I can't actually remember. Anybody remember what the first bid was worth? You remember? Well, at that point in time where it was all speculation as to the numbers, X, Y, Z. I can't remember how much more that is than the original one, or whatever the press was saying. I also don't actually know off the top of my head what the structure of the Jim Ratcliffe deal, and the reason that the Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos deal is confusing is because there's all different types of structures. We don't know whether it's going to be buying out all the Glazers. We don't know whether it's going to be buying out 2 of the Glazers. We don't know whether it's going to be buying out all 6 of the Glazers, but on a minority. So the amounts involved in any Ineos deal massively depend on what sort of deal it is, because we don't actually have the information on that. Whereas the Qatari bid to buy Manchester United is, Ben Jacobs called it transactionally simple there. And in that sense, it is. It's, we're buying it all. Here's the money. And it'll be cash. It won't be spread out at all. Quite a few of you down there are saying that the original bid was in the region, well, reportedly in the region of $4.5 billion. It's certainly gone up. And it's because Manchester United are one of the 3 biggest clubs in the world. Real Madrid up there as number 1. And then in my opinion, it's a toss-up between Manchester United and Barcelona as to who 2 and 3 are. And that's despite us being as poor as we have been for so long. And Ten Hag actually steering our club in the right direction now. has, well, I suppose it's brought us back into the conversation, whereas previously we just kind of had to sit there on the outside looking in. We're not in the conversation fully yet, but with the right owners, we know we can be. I'm going to go down here and see what you're saying in the comments. Chris, you're saying Glazer's out, full sale only. This is it. And there's going to be a lot of, and I'm not getting into a debate about this in the comments today. I'm just not doing it. I've said my piece, and I know that there are pros and cons to both. At this moment in time, for me personally, I want to reach the point where I can know who the new owners are going to be, and I can scrutinize that. That's what I want to. I don't want to focus on the debates and saying which one's better than the other, because I don't think there is a perfect one. I think both of them have got massive flaws. They really do. I think you're talking about the take it or leave it nature of the bid, and I think that's probably the most interesting part of it. So if that is the case, right, and we highlight this, that the Qataris want a response by Friday, then, well, we're not going to be waiting very long for this whatsoever. And that's, look, it all depends. Okay, I'll ask you in the comments down here. In fact, I'll put a poll up here. I think this feels like a good time to put a poll up. Let me start a poll. Who do you think wins at this point? Right? Because Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos, I think, have been leading the race for quite a few weeks now. For quite some time, because they created that structure that allowed the Glazers to retain some level of ownership. Maybe not control, but some level of involvement, some stake. What do you think is the case now? How much has your opinion changed? How much do you think this fifth bid really changes that? Simon Kennedy is a good point down there, saying maybe none of them win. Yeah, I can't rule that out. Oh, man, I don't even want to think about that. After all of this, for them to just go, nah, never mind. I don't actually think that's possible, because they really have just financially run us into the ground, and there is no way that they can sustain the value of Manchester United without investment anymore. It's exactly why we're at this point. I know that that's a fear that some United fans will still have, but I just do not think it's possible for the Glazers to just turn around after all of this and go, nah. I think they're selling. Well, I just don't know. I still, for the life of me, don't know who it's going to be. Because on the one hand, you've now got this bigger fifth Qatari bid from Sheikh Jassim, which is more cash up front. However, and it depends how utterly stubborn Joel and Avram are, ultimately. Because Brian, Edward, Kevin, and Darcy, I think it is. I don't know why I know all their names. Well, I do know why. It's my job. Anyway, they've been wanting to sell since like day one. They've been wanting to cash out for ages. The only reason that we've reached this point is because of Joel and Avram. And they might say, well, there you go. Proved it. We're correct to sort of dig our heels in. Matt, you're saying, how do we know it's true? It's paper talk. Matt, when you get multiple newspapers all reporting the same thing at the exact same time, it's because something has happened. I know people like to use the word spin and pretend that journalists just don't know anything. That just ain't true. That's why journalists are journalists. And when news like this breaks and it's reported everywhere at the same time, it's because it has happened. Let me see if anything else is being written anywhere. Keep talking to me. This is going to be a really interactive show. I really want to know where you stand. Let me see what the poll is saying so far. Oh, look at that. Ibs, you legend, man. You gifted 5 memberships. Let's get the gong and tickle. Hey! Ledge, man. This is a busy show. There's so many comments flying in. 800 votes in the first 2 minutes, and 83% of you at this moment in time, you think that it now puts the Qataris ahead of Ineos. And remember that Ineos, for a good while now, have been sort of leading. And that's why this bid's gone in, right? The reason this bid has gone in is because Ineos were going to win, right? Ineos were going to win. That is the only reason this final 5th bid has gone in. So whatever, you know, how everything's been reported over the last, I don't know, good few weeks about Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos leading the race. It's proof of it. This is proof that they were winning that race. Let's have a look. Fabrizio just reporting the exact same thing that's been reported everywhere else. Sheikh Jassim submitted a 5th bid to buy Manchester United. It's improved with a clear indication, take it or leave it. There will be no more bids from the Qatari group after this Friday. Sheikh Jassim will no longer engage with the process. So that's 2 people. I think maybe the Daily Mail have just got their wording wrong. You got the Times and Fabrizio both saying after Friday, we're gone. After Friday, vamos. Up until this point in time, it's all just been... You heard anything from the Glazers yet? Heard anything from them yet? Have they said anything yet? It's all been down to them and how long they wanted to take. That's now been flipped. And that's now been switched by this 5th and final bid. They've got until Friday to speak directly to the Qataris and say, we accept your bid or we don't. Past that point, they're out of the equation. And the only potential new owner of Manchester United will be Ineos. I'm going to go down here and see what you're saying. There's lots and lots of people down here. I like to engage as much as I can. John, you're saying both bids flawed. We need new owners with deep pockets to correct years of negligence from the Glazers. There's one option for me. And John, that's the reason why there really were not that many people who came in to try and buy Manchester United, was because of the upfront requirements to just like put sandbags outside your house to stop the flood. That's what Manchester United, there are so many holes. You've got to fix all the holes before you can start looking upwards. And that's the debt. And that's the investment required in the infrastructure. That's so many things that are needed. Chris, you're saying Sir Jim should withdraw his bid. He's been messed around by the leeches. He's been a pawn in their game. Nick, you're saying Ineos was never going to win. They were used by the Glazers to get more from the Qataris by the Glazers. I do not think... I really wanted to... I wouldn't say that the Glazers were never going to win. Sorry, Ineos that were never going to win, because for the last few weeks, they've been kind of the leading candidate. The thing that has changed it is that the Qataris now have done what we all felt they could do pretty much the whole way through. They could just come over the top with a big bid, and there's nothing really that Ineos could do. Because I don't think, as I said, the reaction to this, in my opinion, from Ineos is not going to be, all right, lads, how many more hundreds of millions can we throw into this? Remember that a lot of the Ineos bid is going to be structured through financing. They probably could get it, given that I think they made 2 billion net profit last year. I think their revenues were in excess of 60 billion. So in terms of the finances they could probably get a higher one. But this is big. Oh, Yogi, how you doing down there, man? I see you rejoining as a member. Tejas saying Ratcliffe should not join hands with the Glazers. Alex, you think that they use Ratcliffe all that way? And it's actually something that a few of you are mentioning there, so I think we should have a conversation about it. Ben Jacobs has used the phrase stalking horse quite a lot. And what that means is maybe Ineos and Sir Jim Ratcliffe, this is all hypothetical, of course, maybe Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos have been used as that stalking horse by the Glazers, and that this has all just been an amazingly good power play from them to squeeze more money out of the Qataris. And it's something that I know a lot of you felt could have been the case, but nobody knew if it was. It was just throughout this whole process, we've had to interpret news. We've had to try and make our own assumptions, which are dangerous to make your own assumptions, but we were all sort of trying to keep on top of the story. It's been cloak and daggers, this whole process. It's just not been handled properly. And every time I spoke to Ben Jacobs about it, it's about like one person pointing in one direction going, yeah, you're the problem. And then the other direction, yeah, actually, it's you're the problem. Everybody's blaming everybody else throughout this whole process. Ultimately, it comes down to the Glazers. Ultimately, it comes down probably to Joel and Avram Glazer. Temi, you're saying Ratcliffe has been used as bait, and this is clearly going to be a lot of things that a lot of United fans will feel now. But past this point, I mean, that's a lot of money, right? $6.5 billion works out to there or thereabouts, 5.2 billion pounds. That's a lot for Manchester United, considering what else is needed on top of that. That $1 billion worth of pledged investment, that might not be enough. Well, I have no idea how much a new stadium would cost. I have no idea how much a new Carrington would cost. But a lot. A lot of money. Because I don't personally think that Old Trafford... maybe I'm spectacularly wrong, and I would love to be. But I don't know whether Old Trafford can be redeveloped to the level that we all want it to be. Because it's been neglected for so long. Declan, you're saying it's not enough money for them to sell. Abhinav, you're saying £5.2 billion is still less than Jim's offer. And that's what it's complicated with that Jim offer. As I said, because we don't know exactly the percentage he's buying. I think he's looking to buy 51% now. And that's been in, I thought that was mooted at around about $3 billion. Different numbers being flown around everywhere with the Jim Ratcliffe and the Ineos bid. The Qatari one's quite straightforward here by comparison. It's 6.5 billion. That's been reported by, well, Ben Jacobs, I think, is the only person actually thrown a number next to it. Let me see down here. More than 5 billion is what the Times are saying. Let me see if anything's been written in the Daily Mail too. I think they're avoiding numbers. Let me see. They're understood to value United. Oh no, that's the Glazers. Yeah. Yeah, there's no actual numbers involved in the Daily Mail one. So the numbers there coming from Ben. The Times are saying it's in excess of 5 billion. Ace in Force, you're saying, what am I missing? Why is everyone so sure about Qataris winning? It looks to be like Jim Ratcliffe would. Well, up until this bid went in, it was Jim Ratcliffe leading the way and Ineos leading the way. Let me see if there's anything else that's being reported now over on Sky Business as well. Let's see this. This is breaking. So it's going to develop whilst we're here together. Business. No, nothing there yet. Let me see if there's anything else. And you're saying, what was the put and call share valuation? I don't know about that yet. The put and call was, and these are the things that I would have been really diving deep into if it went to the Ineos situation, because that's the thing I wanted clarity on. Because the thing that pissed a lot of United fans off, rightly, was the idea that the Glazers would somehow retain some sort of stake in Manchester United, and that would be bought out over time with these put and call shares. I'm not put and call options. That basically means that there's an obligation for Ineos to buy the shares off the Glazers at a certain valuation at any point, and the other way around, that the Glazers could sell to Ineos at a certain valuation at any point. Let's have a look. What's going on down here? Ratcliffe is just a bargaining chip, says Cooper. Man, there are some big old numbers, man. There's some big old numbers behind this. We've been wanting an update on the takeover. There's your update on the takeover. For anybody who's just tuning in, how you doing? I'll give one quick summary at the end of it, and I'm sure that I might have to speak to Ben Jacobs a little bit later today. I've got a video already prepared for today. But the Qataris have come in with a final bid for Manchester United. According to Ben Jacobs, that bid is $6.5 billion. It's a lot of money, significantly improved on the initial sorts of bids linked. Well, again, this is all sort of interpretation of news. We don't know exactly how much the initial bids were from the Qataris, but thereabouts. $6.5 billion is a massive premium. That bid will only exist until Friday, right? This is the final power play from the Qataris. The Glazers have got 48 hours to respond to them. Let's find out what happens next. Andrew, you're saying fairly down there. Lots of money, but it's still not their asking price. It's like their asking price was always like, guys, look, I live in a little 2-bed flat. I want you to pay me 1.2 million for it. Huh? Huh? It's not worth 1.2 mil, but that can be my price. Doesn't mean they're going to get it. They were never, ever, ever getting that bid. They were just putting the figure out of their ass. They really, really were, man. Let's see down here. We've got Hilroy. How are you doing there? Hilroy joining as a member. Legend. Thank you very much for joining, man. I'm sure there are plenty new faces here that aren't normally here. We've got in 13 minutes, look at that. We've got 2,100 votes. If I can ask you, please, by the way, there's 1,600 of you that have dropped a vote, but not dropped a like on the video. Can you please drop a like? If I was living in London, it would be worth 1.2 mil. I don't live in London. It's definitely not worth 1.2 mil. Danny, you're saying time to call the Glazers bluffing. The Ineos bid has always been a coy. It's the deadline of that Qatari bid, which I find probably the most curious. I'm not surprised by the fact that they've come in with a 5th bid, right? It's the fact that they've put their own deadline on it. They're not going to sit there and wait for Avram and Joel to make up their mind. They're like, sod that. Shoes on our foot now. 48 hours you've got. Let me know. If not, we're gone. And the only place that the Glazers can go, therefore, is Ratcliffe. So the Glazers have lost a bit of their negotiation power in this. It's been taken away from them because they've messed about too much. But yeah, look at that. 2,300 votes and 84% of you think at this moment in time that Sheikh Jassim is more likely to win. Stefan, you're pointing out that 5.2 billion isn't what the 6 billion that the Glazers want. And I've just explained it there. They are not getting. They were never getting 6 billion. So to get even 5.2 billion is far more than I ever thought that they would be able to get, because it's massively in excess of what Manchester United's current value is. I think in the goodness of time with investment, XYZ, that value does shoot up, but it only shoots up with investment, which they have just never been able, they've never been willing to do. Tony, started with a super chat, you finished with a super chat. If they had started out at 4 billion, they might have gotten the ultimate asking price that he started out too high. Who gives a shit what the Glazers want? I want my football club to have new owners. Sue, you're joining there as a member. Last couple of minutes, I'll just answer any questions that you're firing in down there. As I said, I tried to make it interactive. It's not the easiest because there are so many comments flying in. God, you're saying it wasn't £6 billion, it was 6 billion. Oh, no one knows them. Sod them. Phil Jones. Phil, look. He's not playing football anymore, so he joins in. Setting a deadline probably means he have eyes on another club. No, and the Qataris have never had. Man, what's going on with that Liverpool takeover? It's almost like there's a bigger club up for sale, so no one really gives a crap. Anyway, I just think that deadline is a good business move, because they can't have this dragging out any longer. They cannot. Ibuki, you're saying if I was Ratcliffe, I'd lower my bid on Friday in case the Glazers turn down Sheikh Jassim. I don't know. Maybe. Is the most interesting thing, says Scott, the Friday cut. I personally think the interesting thing is the Friday cutoff. And that's been reported, as I said, by The Times, by Fabrizio, by Ben Jacobs, and by Mike Keegan from the Daily Mail. So there's no smoke without fire sort of thing. When everything gets reported by lots of people at once is usually when a story really is actually happening. And the deadline will force that decisions. Alex is saying, Sam, any word on whether this bid is via Rain or direct to Glazers? Confusion about that, because I thought that the suggestion was that it was directly to the Glazers. But we don't know this now. We'll see it down here. Has been sent directly to the Glazers and Rain Group. I mean, that's the opposite. It's either directly to the Glazers or it's to the Rain Group. It's one of the two. So there's a little bit of confusion as to where that bid has actually gone in. Because everything that we've heard as well is that the Qatari bid got so annoyed with dealing with the Glazers. No, so annoyed with dealing with Rain Group that they ended up talking directly to the Glazers about it. Abhinavi saying Jim did the same with Chelsea, having a late bid at high value and lost. This could be Jassim trying to save face. I mean, that's a fair point. When the Ineos bid went in to buy Chelsea. It was after the period of exclusivity got announced. And it was never going to win because they were really far down the line with the Clearwater and Todd Bowley group. This one's a bit different. There is no period of exclusivity. It's still we're still at the negotiation table. Up until the point where the Glazers either choose a new potential owner and give them the period of exclusivity, or they just accept a deal, then anything could happen. Hypothetically, Ineos could come in tomorrow and whack an even higher bid down. I think it's far less likely because of the complications behind that bid. It's not just Jim Ratcliffe making a decision in the same way that Sheikh Jassim is leading this private Qatari bid. With Ineos, you've got a board, you've got a structure, you've got plans in place. The idea that they're going to come in over the top at the end, I don't know. What else is he saying down here? The Leach appearing at the FA Cup final makes me think the Glazers don't want to go anywhere. They want that ego boosting belly rub. Wow. I don't know what I've just said there. But yeah, they spent 750 grand on 3 flights to Wembley this season. Imagine that. And that's a lot for a private flight. I know that they're the owners and they could do that, but that is way on the private, way on the high end of the private jet game. Not that I know about that. Be nice to fly in a private jet once. Anyway, I'm waffling now. I'm going to end this because I am waffling. That's the big breaking story, all right? We've been waiting for this. Maybe not waiting for this per se, but we've been waiting for an update on the takeover. There's your update. There is a 5th and final bid that has gone in. Is it a 5th bid or is it a 4th bid? I don't even know how many bids have gone in now. But the bid has gone in. The Glazers have until Friday to respond. That's a power play from the Qataris, which I think is a smart move. It will force a decision. Let's find out what happens in the next few days then. I'll be here on United People's TV. Hey, look, if you're just tuning in, please join the community. I'd love to have you on board. That was a busy show. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. I enjoyed the interactivity of it all. Whoa. Apparently it's a 5th bid. Sod knows. Maybe there'll be a 6th. Maybe there won't be a 6th bid, but maybe there'll be an Ineos response. I don't know. That's the latest on the takeover. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure you drop a like on the video if you can.